That's Lucy, and that's Kabwe. And Lucy is Australopithecus from Ethiopia, and Kabwe is a Homo erectus skull from Zambia. I teach wildlife conservation. I've been interested in wildlife conservation ever since I can remember. As a little boy, I used to collect butterflies and run around identifying plants, and bird watching was an early interest. So it's been a lifelong interest, really, and I've never wanted to do anything else. I've never had any other interests in any other career other than a career in wildlife conservation. So it goes back all the way to childhood. So I think wildlife conservation has changed in the last 10 years in that we do far more with people than we ever did before. So traditionally, wildlife conservation would involve, exclusively working in a national park or some sort of protected area, doing wildlife management. And the reality is, especially in the developing world, that we have, thousands of people living on the borders of these protected areas now. And so the job of a wildlife conservationist is dealing with people, dealing with NGOs and organizations and government and society and politics as much as it is about dealing with wildlife. And that's a big change in the last 10 years. My most pressing environmental concern, I guess, people always say overpopulation. I don't say that because that's something that you can't really control. No one's ever successfully controlled population. And so I would always say consumption. We just consume too much, as especially the wealthier societies. Overconsumption, I think, is my most concern. It's the root of climate change problems, resource depletion, deforestation, all can be traced back to consumption. Well, I guess it emerges from my last comment, which is to consume less generally. Think about what you need. What do you really need? What really makes you happy in life? Endless accumulation of more and more stuff and more junk, or is it sort of meaningful experiences, meaningful relationships? Have a good think about your consumption and what it means to you and what it means to the planet. So I would make that number one. Number two is not to discount the small things that you do every day as insignificant. Switch off the lights when you don't need the lights in the room. Take a walk instead of taking the car. Every day, do some small action. And everybody says, well, that doesn't make any difference. And so my response to that is, well, then we should just get rid of democracy then, because your vote doesn't make any difference. A single vote is not going to change the system. But we know very well that when the millions upon millions of us get together and make a small cross on a bit of paper and vote for something, vote for changes, we know that we can change the world and change our society. Well, the same applies to all those little actions that you do every day. So every time you don't take a car and you take a walk, every time you make a decision, if there's millions and millions of us all making similar decisions along the way, we'll be making a difference. So it's to keep on doing those small things. And then number three is get involved. Get involved with a local conservation group, environmental group. Focus on your local area. You don't need to change the world, and solve climate change on your own. You need to solve problems in your local area. So get involved locally on the ground with whatever's going on. Wherever you live, there's always a group of enthusiasts and volunteers that are making a difference that would appreciate a bit more help or a bit more, even if it's just a bit of admin work. If you're not really physically active, then you can always do something. So those, I think, are the top three actions that I would advise. Okay, so number one, my favorite thing to do is a long road trip through Africa. Number two is my favorite food is risotto. And number 3 is I once ate the tail of a monitor lizard. In fact, it's number 2. I can't stand risotto. Never ever cook risotto. Do not serve me risotto, please. I hate it in any form, in any shape. You'll never convince me. I'd much rather eat the tail of a monitor lizard. Cat or dog? Definitely dog. Much prefer dogs to cats. Netflix, YouTube, definitely YouTube because it's free and you don't have to pay. Phone call or text. Oh, I wish everyone would just phone me. Just give me a call. Pie, not so much of a sweet tooth, so definitely pie. But I guess in the United States, pie can be sweet too. So I like a savory pie, you know, like a meat pie, chicken pie, something like that, rather than cake. Definitely the driver. I hate being a passenger. I love my tablet. I love my iPad. I just wish it could do the same as my computer could do, and it can't. Tea, usually tea. Occasionally I'll have a coffee, but usually I'm a tea drinker. Well, this one should be obvious. Countryside, definitely. I've never lived in a big city, ever in my life. So countryside for me. Summer, all the way. Not so much of a Trekkie. That's a difficult one. Yeah, I'm not kind of so much of a science fiction reader, but a bit more of a science fiction watcher. So I struggle to choose between the two. I watch both. I wouldn't kind of really identify with either. So yeah.